Hey guys, it's Ashley Cunningham, and I really wanted to take a few moments today to talk about my trip to Iceland. It was so amazing and I loved it so much, and it couldn't have been better timed because when I went, so I left the United States September 14th and I came back September 28th, so exactly 2 weeks time. I was in Iceland, and when I went, there was a huge influx of energy, and maybe many of you felt the energy coming in. Maybe you've had a lot of experiences with releasing a lot of older, lower vibrational energy, emotions, just going through a lot. Thank goodness I was in Iceland because pretty much every single day I was out in nature and I was grounding for hours at a time, and I really felt a reprieve from a lot of those processes. Not that I'm not feeling them now, because there's definitely some energy coming in and will be coming in very shortly at the end of the month and through the next few months. So I'm definitely not going to get away from it at that time, but I just had such a beautiful experience, and the energy there was so different from the energy that I feel in my normal everyday environment here in Oregon. And there were also some similarities, actually. There's a wildness to the Icelandic landscape that it's just so beautiful. It's just so immense. And what's funny is there's a wildness to it, but a lot of it is like farmland or horse ranches, and a lot of it's populated, but there are also huge expanses of Iceland's country that is not populated or farmed or managed in any sort of way. So it was really interesting to go and just drive around Iceland. Basically, we did the entire ring road, which is a highway that goes around the entire island, and then we also did the Golden Circle. And if you're on my business Facebook page or in my group Channeling with Love on Facebook, you may have seen some of my pictures that I've taken. I still have about 800 photos to process, so I will be including some of those in my group and also on my business page and on my own personal page on Facebook, so you can find me at Ashley Cunningham. And excuse me, I still have a lot to process from that trip, but I want to take some time to share some really cool stories and experiences. So not only did I get a ton of grounding in, and I had a great time when I know a lot of people, especially in the Mediumship for Beginners class with Kristen Davies and Alyssa Reynolds, a lot of people were processing a lot of energy, and it was just a time of release, and so I was definitely grateful, and I got a lot of rest during that time. But I also had some pretty amazing experiences that were just super fascinating and really exciting to me because as I was traveling, I feel like I was more open, just sensing energy-wise. I always had fairies around me. There's a lot of fairies in Iceland, just letting you know, there's a ton. So I had like a little fairy entourage. I also had trolls visit me, and there's one specifically that was like my contact, basically, and he was with me pretty much the entire time as well, although he didn't really kind of insert himself or talk with me too much. When I first got there on my very first night in Iceland, we landed, we got our rental car, we went to Reykjavik, we got into our apartment, and then we crashed. So that was like our first night, and he showed up as I was getting settled in on my first night, and it was just really an amazing way to kick off the entire trip because I could feel him around, and he was just so awesome and just really, really nice, and super excited that I was gonna be there. And he was just really excited to show me what Iceland was like. And throughout the trip, I consistently felt him, and I felt a lot of his friends and beings that were just really happy to show themselves. So I saw a lot of beings, but also it was just really great because it felt like I was coming home. Like they were all inviting me into their homes, inviting me to their space, and they were just so ecstatic for me to be there. And they were really, really happy that I came to Iceland. Basically, part of my reason for going to Iceland was A, I always wanted to go. That's A, or one. And two, or B, I really wanted to go and see the lava fields and see the environment in which trolls and elves and fairies are really respected. And in Iceland, they have a great respect for nature. Excuse me, I have a lot of energy coming in, and it's actually the troll that I met. He is so excited, and he's just like really, really happy that I'm talking about him. I'm talking about the trip, and I'm talking about their existence and their energy. He's saying that he was honored to receive a being such as myself, which is so sweet. Thank you. And he is excited that I'm sharing my experience, because as more people go to Iceland or are intrigued with Iceland, or just wish to energetically connect with him and his friends and family, they are very open to doing that. So if you're interested in feeling his energy, call him in, ask him to come forth. You can say Trolls of Iceland, or his name is Ingurdsson. And he's showing me how to spell it, and it's like a lot of extra letters in there. I may put it in the description box below this, so look out for that. And he's just saying that he's just so happy, and he's just ecstatic that anyone may be interested in connecting with them. And there are many more beings in Iceland and around the world that wish to connect with us that we have no way of comprehending. So that kind of dovetails into another story that I'm going to go into in a minute, but there's a lot of energy in the landscapes around us, in the environments around us, in even our back gardens, he's saying, in our front gardens, in our land that we call our own. There are beings there that are helping to take care of the land, or trying to protect the land and connect with us. And that's only increasing as people awaken, or are more comfortable, and are opening up their senses and becoming more aware of beings like them. And they just bow to everyone, and he's saying that they're so honored and excited to be sharing more of themselves through this dear one, various projects, but also through other people who are interested in connecting with them. And he says, please call on us. We are very excited to connect. And he's saying, we may also be a little tricksy, but it's all in good fun, and we are very loving, and we are really excited to just be a part of this conversation that we're having online, whether it be through me or through other light workers, mediums, channelers, healers, anyone who's really willing to connect with them. They're just excited to be a part of it, and they want to continue to reach out to people. So he's saying, thank you so much for letting me say that. Now on with the show. Thank you very much. So what I was saying before he kind of interrupted was I wanted to go and see the landscapes in which I knew these beings lived, and I had already connected with them a little bit when I was in Oregon, but when I was there, it was like kind of like a layer of the veil was moved aside for me for a time. Like there was less separation between their energy and mine. Of course, that's where they're from, but also it's just the energy of the landscape of the land there was just so high vibrational that it was just supporting that connection even more. And it was really fun because I got to go and see beautiful expansive lava fields, and I'll put some pictures at the end of this video so you can kind of see what I was talking about. But there's just so many amazing mountains and Great Plains and lava fields, and I just can go on and on. The coastline was beautiful. One thing that Oregon has that Iceland doesn't have is really beautiful trees. I mean, there were some pretty trees there, but it was clearly they were planted by humans. They weren't wild. And in Oregon, I am very blessed to be surrounded by immense forests that are really wild, very pristine, and just really a blessing to be around consistently. I can just 20 minutes drive, I'm in a national forest. So it's just really amazing that I can live in a place like this, but living over there, I wish I could live in Iceland, but being over there in Iceland, I felt like there was also kind of a step removed or a barrier removed between me and the land, me and the landscape, and it was just really beautiful. And as I was walking on, one of my favorite places that I was in Iceland was it's a Hornsvik, which is a beach. It's a black sand beach, and it's surrounded on kind of 2/3 of its side by like a really steep mountain range. It's not like a full range, but it's like a group of these mountains that kind of just shoot up pretty quickly from the coastline. And I was just walking along the beach. What I always do, I'm a bad beach comber. I look at rocks and I pick up seashells, and it takes me about 2 hours to walk a beach because I'm just constantly looking at things and you know, just checking it out. But basically I was doing that, and I feel this just immense energy right next to me on my right side, and it was very masculine. And as I was strolling along the beach, just started talking to me, and I was looking at this mountain that was at the end of the beach. And again, I'll post a picture so you can see with the words like Hornsvik on it, so you know which one I'm talking about. But there was a mountain at the end, and I looked at it as I was feeling this energy, and I knew that was the energy. This mountain spirit being was walking right next to me, and it was really amazing. He was telling me about how he is just in awe and just really enjoys seeing humans' progression basically on the planet. And he was telling me about the history of all of the beings that he's seen on the beach, and it was just really amazing. It was a beautiful download of one little specific area on the planet through the eyes of this mountain being that's been there for however long that mountain's been there, which has been a long time. And it was just really, really, really special. And he was so courteous. He was very, very sweet, and just it was amazing for me to meet him. And whew, I'm feeling a lot of energy coming in kind of from behind me and also around on my side, like right here. And I feel like it's the mountain energy, the mountain being. Whew. And just saying thank you for taking time to speak with him and to listen to his stories. And he who is really appreciative of the time that I'm taking to share that story and to share my experience with him with you guys, because all of you can experience this, whether it be a pebble, a mountain, a boulder, just a rock in the sand. There is spirit in all beings. Everything that we see around us in the natural world has a spirit, and you can connect with it, and you can get energy from it. You can give energy to it. And it's really important to know that we are all connected. And while our experience as a human is vastly different from, say, his experience as a mountain, we are all in the same space. We are able to connect and find commonality within each of our experiences. And he's just saying thank you so much for sharing that message, and he's showering a lot of love on me and making me really emotional. So I'm asking him to step back a little bit because it's a little much, but it's really, really sweet, and I love it so much. Part of my favorite thing about channeling is, I know I cry on camera like pretty regularly, but I love just the washing of love from a being. I just appreciate it so much, because sometimes throughout my day just kind of run around, and I know that I'm loved, and I know that these beings are there to support me and all of us, but just feeling it and knowing it, just being aware of it is one thing, feeling it and really knowing it is a completely different thing. So definitely when you feel that a sensation, take some time to revel in it. I just really appreciate it so much, and he's stepping back now, thankfully. And he's saying, he's coming back in. He's just sharing a message for me, saying that that I need to keep up the good work and continue to share messages and continue to shine my light. So I will do that. Thank you so much to him. And I asked what his name was, and I wasn't sure. I'm gonna go with it because in the moment when I was on Hornsvik Beach, he told me his name was Edinur, and it's Edinur, and it has like the little dots over the U's. I have no idea what that means or what it's called, the little dots, but it totally reminds me of something from Lord of the Rings, so I have to look it up. I'm not sure if it's from Lord of the Rings or not, but that's what he was telling me his name is, and I so appreciate Edinur because it's just really beautiful and amazing to connect with a being of just his immense nature and energy, but he's just so rock solid in his love for Gaia and for being here on this planet, and appreciative of people wanting to connect with him. And he's saying, yes, if you wish to connect with me, you may choose to do so. Oh, sorry, my glasses are now really dirty. So please call him in if you wish to connect with him, if you sensed him through the screen, which if you haven't, that's okay, but if you were able to sense him, you know how high vibrational he is and how just immense his energy feels, and it's just really different. Actually, on Edinur, he was just saying it again for me. I had a similar experience with Alyssa and Kristen actually in Canada. So we were just sitting there watching a movie, and we all immediately sensed there was a being in Kristen's patio doorway, which we were facing as we were sitting on her couch and we were watching a little movie on her TV. So we were watching TV, we're watching a movie, and we just like all immediately kind of get drawn to the doorway. And we were trying to figure out, who is this being? It felt so different than the archangels that were regularly coming through that space, the fairies. It felt different than Jesus, who was visiting us quite often. It felt different than all of our guardian angels and our teams. We're like, who in the heck is this person or this being? And we finally kind of got the information from him. He was also a mountain spirit, mountain being. He was like the essence of a mountain there in the local area. And he was just introducing himself, stepping forward and saying hello, and that he was very excited to be connecting with us, and that we were he was honored to meet us and speak with us, and we did a little bit of channeling from him, and it was just beautiful to have that experience. And then about 2 weeks later, I met this other mountain spirit being, essence, in Iceland, and they feel very similar but different. So I could definitely tell they're not the same being, but they're both mountain beings, the spirit essence of the mountain, in which I was seeing at the time on Hornsvik, but also in Canada. So that was a really amazing experience in both places that I was in September. So I definitely want to go into that. Gaia, she was just everywhere in Iceland. I could just feel her energy, so high vibrational. I felt like I was stepping into a bubble that is surrounding Iceland. And while there's a lot of stuff going on with like the geology of Iceland and the just all the different landscapes that are there, and the seascape and the animals and the fauna, flora and fauna, I just felt like it was a bubble of like really peaceful, really high vibrational energy. And I was talking to her about how she was saying in several channelings that me and Kristen have done, as well as just Kristen with Gaia, about how there are these like pockets of really high vibrational energy around the world. And I never really thought about asking her if Iceland is a pocket, but I felt it when I was there. There's a distinct difference. And I thought Oregon is very high vibrational, but this was like on a whole other level. It was really intense in a great, beautiful way. So definitely wanted to call that out. Just the energy was different. There was so much stuff going on naturally in the area, just the landscape, but also energetically. It was just bursting. It was like sunlight just bursting out of everything that was there. It was just so beautiful. And you can tell I definitely fell in love with Iceland, and I really want to go back. There's another I have two more stories that I want to get into around Iceland, and then I have a story from Tofino and Canada, or Vancouver Island, where I was in the beginning of September. So one of the other stories in Iceland was I walked 2 miles to this plane wreck in southern Iceland, and actually there's like 2.5, and the pilot of the plane wreck kind of popped in and we were chatting a little bit. That was really, really interesting. And then the way back, because I had to hike 2 miles back to our car, because I wasn't paying like $15 to ride a bus 2 miles down the road. I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna walk it. I'll just power through. I wore my hunter rain boots because I thought it was gonna rain like the whole time, and that was probably a bad mistake, especially on that day, because it was beautiful and no rain, and they're not the greatest hiking boots. But on the way back, as I was trying to ignore the blisters that were forming on my heels, I was really trying to power through and I focus, but also kind of do a walking meditation that day. There was just some people around me that just had really low vibe energy, and it was really bothering me, and I was having a hard time just keeping my boundaries and a hard time letting go and transmuting that energy that was coming my way. And so I was really trying to just decompress from that. And as I was walking along, I just sensed these energies come straight up from behind and start walking with me on both sides of me. And they were Icelandic horse energies walking with me the 2 miles to the car from the plane wreck site. And they were just, you know, there to cheer me on, basically. It wasn't a long trek, but I was struggling a little bit with my footwear, and I was just really tired because we went we didn't go early in the day, but we had already done some things and I was just exhausted. So the 2 miles was a little bit much for me at that time. They were just really, really funny, super sweet, and they were like nuzzling me, and they were totally you know, I knew they were spirit horses, but they were acting like real horses, and it was just really cute, and they were really, really sweet, and it just makes me just like light up thinking, you know, animals that are on the other side can come to us and connect with us. And I've had a few other experiences where other animals have just kind of come up to me when I'm sleeping or when I'm having a really hard time. I sense their energy, and they just pick me right up and make me really happy. And these 2 horses on both sides of me were also super cute and made me really, really happy. And it made the walk back like go by way faster than I think if I was just focused on how horrible my feet hurt at the time and how tired I was and how I was going back to, you know, maybe some not good attitudes. And it was all good in the end. Everything worked out fine, but they were really, really cute and really sweet, and they just gave me quiet messages of encouragement, just like keep going and just enjoy this view, and you know, we love being here and we're just so happy that you're here. So they were just kind of giving me quiet encouragement. It was just really, really, really sweet. And I could sense their energy, their being, you know, just they were a horse. They felt as large as a horse and as thick and solid as a horse, and they were butting up against my arms and kind of sniffing at my hair. And you know how horses like nuzzle in and then they like blow air, and they were kind of doing that stuff, and it was just super sweet and warms my heart thinking about them. Being my little cheerleading team, my pep squad, as I was going through a little minor moment there. And then there was another beautiful experience. We were in northern Iceland. It was earlier on in our trip, and we went whale watching out of Húsavík, Iceland, which is in the northeastern side, more central, but kind of on the eastern side of like that central line. And Húsavík's a really charming, beautiful town. Everyone that we met there was so accommodating and really, really nice and understanding that, you know, we played the dumb American. We didn't really know much, so they helped us out a lot. And we went whale watching on this beautiful oak boat. It was a larger boat, and thankfully it was, you know, it had a motor and everything, so it wasn't like the old-fashioned boats, but it was clad in oak, and it was just really beautiful. We could get up and walk around, and we were out whale watching. It was awesome. We got to see 2 really beautiful humpback whales, and they were just kind of hanging out, and then they breached several times as we were going back to the port in Husavik after we kind of saw them just dive a few times, and then we had to start heading back because it was already at like the hour-and-a-half mark. So we were really excited. We were watching them breach. They were having a good time. And then I start feeling this nudge to kind of look off to my right into the bay, because we were kind of at the mouth of the bay between Husavik and then this other part of the island. So it's kind of like a fjord where it's like jutting out, but there's like a little inlet bay right there. And so we were going in. I looked to my right and I was fighting off a lot of seasickness, not gonna lie. So I had kind of a hard time really understanding this being, but it was very slow. Sorry, my camera stopped. So I had a little bit of a hard time with this, understanding this being, because I was pretty seasick at that point. I was ready to get into port and I needed to like go eat, lay down, like crash basically. And I was kind of coming off that excitement of seeing the whales, and I was just ready to be done. And so I look off to my right and this slow, deep being was speaking to me, and I didn't really hear his voice, but I more like felt it, if that makes sense. And he was a being that basically like a sea serpent, like a large sea creature, like sea snake, not necessarily like the Loch Ness monster, but just a large like sea dragon, sea snake creature. And he was kind of trying to just show me mentally what he looked like, and he was gigantic. Basically, that little, well, it wasn't a very little bay, it was a pretty big bay, but that bay area that he was living in was almost like too small for him. And he was just kind of, that was where his home was, and he just kind of protected that area. And he was telling me that there are lots and lots of sea creatures that we have no idea about, that are living in our dimension in the ocean, as well as in adjacent dimensions within the ocean, and that they come here quite often to feed or to just hang out and connect with other beings that are here. And it was fantastic. It was so exciting that I connected with him. It really helped me get through my seasickness, because I was pretty sick at that point. And I just was really processing what his role was in that area. He's very connected to the land, and he was just there to protect it. Also, that was his home, and that was kind of his comfort zone. And he was just saying that he just hi basically, and that's kind of what he does in that area, and that there are many other beings that are similar to him that live in our oceans and live near us that we may not be aware of. So think about that when you go out into the ocean, or you're on the coast or at the beach. There's, you know, lots of beings out there that we have no idea about. And he liked to call himself the Bay Guardian. He didn't give me his like identity name. He just said the Bay Guardian, which I'm totally okay with. It's probably some really hard Icelandic name for me to pronounce. I'm not very good with names, but he was just really excited to connect with me and to share kind of his story, and he kind of corroborated some of the information that I know Alyssa and Kristen have channeled on beings that are near them in Canada, and very similar roles, similar feelings. His energy was kind of, well, it felt like hard water, like slimy, but hard and solid at the same time. He was trying to give me sense of his being, and it was very different than what I've ever felt before. And he was just really kind and patient with me while I struggled through my physical discomfort on this oak boat where we were on for like 3.5 hours. So I had one more story, and then I think I'm going to call this video, and I would love to hear some of your guys' stories. If interested, definitely let me know if you want to go live, and we can have chats, or you can ask me to call in certain beings, or just share your story down below, and it would be really fun. If you want to share your own story in Channeling with Love, my Facebook group, you can go ahead and try and join and share your story. If you're not already in the group, share your story in a post. That would be super exciting. So outside of that, I have one more story from my trip to Canada with Kristen and Alyssa, and we met many beings while we were in Tofino, which is a small town in Up Island from Victoria, so kind of northern, kind of in the middle of, I have really no idea where exactly Tofino is, but it's 5 hours north of Victoria. So it's in northern part of the island, but I don't know if it's like all the way north or if it's like mid-range. I've seen a few different maps of it, and yeah, anyway. So we were in Tofino, this little town, and we were in a really beautiful house, and we got to just be out in nature, be on the beach every day, and also be near a lot of trees, and it was just really amazing to connect with a few beings. We went to, on the way to Tofino, the Cathedral Grove, which is a little stop-off point along the highway that you take up to Tofino, and these trees are like 800 plus years old, and they're gigantic, and they're beautiful and majestic, and there's a beautiful lake on the other side of the road. So we did a little tour of both sides of this highway, and on our way back to the car from the lake, and after visiting the trees, we met this tree elemental being who was just saying that he was very grateful that we've channeled before about nature and Gaia and spirits, and how we can support Gaia, and how we can support our environment in everything that we do. And he was just really, really adorable and super sweet, and it was just really awesome to, near these really majestic trees, connect with this tree elemental being who I know was there to help keep the trees happy, to help them and thrive, and to grow new life, and to work with the nature in that area. And we were very honored to connect with him. He was so sweet, and yeah, it was just really beautiful. And there were, like I was talking about before, the mountain spirit that came into Kristen's living room, and all the fairies that we got to see there. There's like a fairy portal like a few blocks away from Kristen and Alyssa's house, which was pretty awesome. And there were just like so many beings and trees that we talked to that were super excited to connect with us. I do want to quickly tell one more story about a tree that Alyssa and I connected with. We did a little channeling of this tree in my Facebook group, Channeling with Love, and we posted this little video, and it was so sweet because we were walking down the street and we were chatting and, you know, having a conversation, and we sensed this energy coming in to our left ear. My left ear, Alyssa's right ear, because she was on the left of me. So this energy was coming right between us and making this really loud buzzing frequency sound in both of our ears. And I looked around and I didn't see anyone or sense any beings or anything. And then when I laid eyes on the tree, it got really sharp again. And so I'm like, oh my God, I think it's this tree that's trying to talk to us from across the street. He was just so cute because he's this giant tree, right? So he's like a huge tree. If you wrapped your arms around the tree, you wouldn't be able to see the other side or even get like halfway around. He was gigantic. And I feel like he was a walnut tree. and the leaves looked like walnut trees. And so we were like, okay, let's go talk to this tree. So we walk across the street, and as we get closer, the excitement builds and builds and builds, and this energy is just buzzing. Like, we are like on cloud 9. We can't contain ourselves. We're like giggling and smiling from ear to ear. And he, like, you think this giant tree would be kind of like slow and rumbling and like this ancient wise being, and it was like bubblegum, like, you know, bubblegum's not a good example. Like, bubbles, light, like so high vibrational. He was just so excited. Like, he was a little kid, just really, really, really excited. And it was adorable. And just thinking about it and just like connecting with his energy again, my energy is rising. But he was just so excited that we could understand him and that we could connect with him and talk with him. And so we did a channeling, and he was just so happy to connect with us and to say hi and know that there are humans out there that can actually talk with trees. And because he hadn't talked with any humans before, and though he was like hundreds of years old, he had to have been because he was so big. And he was right on the corner of a street, and he was telling us he just likes to watch life go by, you know, watch the humans, watch everything happening beneath him, and connect with the squirrels and the nature that's around him as well. And we finally had to leave because it was just like too much a little bit. Like, we were just like, okay, we feel like high right now. We gotta go. It was really dark at that point because it was at like 7:30, almost 8 at night, and it was just really, really dark. And so we left, and it was just a really fun experience. I had never had a tree like blast energy out to us like that before, to get our attention, and then to just be that so excited and bubbly, like a really excited puppy. And it was just really, really cute and beautiful. And there were lots of moments like that on all of my trips in September. And so I just wanted to make sure I shared some of those stories with you guys, because I didn't get a chance to do as much filming as I wanted, or pop in and do live videos as much as I wanted, or post on YouTube as much as I wanted for the month of September of this year. So I figured I'd wrap it up and add it to my cute little Traveling with Spirit playlist. I'm gonna leave it on my channel, and whenever I do trips, I'm going to try and post a video about the different trips that I take and the energy and the nature that I see around me when I do trips. Because I think traveling kind of takes you out of your everyday norm. You know, your entire schedule is disrupted. You're in a completely new place. So it kind of prompts you to be more open and expansive in your energy, and to be kind of more aware of what's going on. So I think it's just really fun. And for me to reflect on all of these little stories, it's just amazing how much Spirit was connecting with me. And oh my gosh, I forgot a big story that I wanted to tell you, and then I really will be done. But I was in northern Iceland, and I was just waking up in the morning, and I look over, you know, I'm waking up and I'm stretching and kind of getting out of my sleepiness, and I look over to my right, and sitting in a chair in my little hotel room was this being, this ghost spirit that was just like watching me sleep, which was really kind of crazy. I normally have very strict boundaries with my team. I tell them, do not let any beings just be around me when I'm out of it, you know, when I'm sleeping. I have strict boundaries, but clearly they thought he was okay because they let him hang out, and Archangel Michael was there, and he was just chilling. So Archangel Michael saying, I was not just chilling, not in that way, but I was monitoring the situation, and I deemed it appropriate for you to speak with this being and for him to speak with you. I'm like, okay. So this being, his name was Luke, was sitting there on a chair. He seemed like a very young, like construction worker guy. And he was telling me his name was Luke, and he was just saying hi. He was just really excited to see a person who was open and such a bright light, which was really sweet, and willing to have conversations with beings like him. And he was tied to the area. He, I guess, passed away when they were doing construction in the area. I'm not sure if it was on the hotel itself, because the hotel we were at was pretty new, or if it was a work site that was near the hotel. But he was saying that he likes to pop in to the hotel from time to time and just see the people that are there, because there are tons of people coming through that area for a lot of the year, not most of the year, not like all year round, but because there's winter in Iceland, that's pretty intense. But for a lot of the year, there's a lot of visitors, and he just likes to see and pop in and see how the hotel is doing and who people are there. And he just seemed very inquisitive and really nice, and very young, like early 20s, very chill, kind of cool, but also like really excited that I sensed him sitting there. And he was just laughing about how, like, whoa, I sensed him there, and I was kind of freaked out a little bit, just being like, hey, like, you're not supposed to be here. But he was telling me he's not tied to specifically that area, but he chooses to spend some time there. And he just is really fascinated by the people that come through. And he was just super happy that I was there and that I would share his story and share my experience with him. And I feel him behind me on my left, just like waving at you guys. So I definitely feel him right there, and he knows I'm talking about him. And he's saying, yeah, I knew you would. He just wants to say hello and come to Iceland because it's beautiful. And that he's not tied there. He chooses to spend some time there. He likes to just be in that area, and that's just what he's chosen to do. And now I'm asking him, has he fully crossed over? So is he like a spirit being that's fully on the other side of the veil, or is he kind of on this side as well? You know how like energy kind of gets trapped, so where he would need to fully have support to transition. And he says, oh, no, I am on the other side. I fully transitioned. I'm aware that I'm not in a human body at this point. He's just saying that he likes to see that area. He remembers his last lifetime being very happy in that location, in that area, and very curious and excited to see and meet new people. And he is very proud that there's more development happening in Iceland. There's quite a bit of development happening. And he's just so excited that there are people like me to share these stories and to show that it's not scary. Even though I was a little alarmed at first, it's not scary to have conversations with beings, loved ones that are on the other side, that you don't know. If you feel uncomfortable, of course, say go away or don't engage in the conversation. But it's just like meeting a stranger in a coffee shop and chatting up the being. And if you're comfortable with that, it's really awesome. And he's just assuring you all that, of course, follow your comfort zone, understand where your boundaries are, what you will allow from spirit to protect yourself, but also be open to having conversations with beings that are just excited to connect with you, and that are high vibrational and that are happy to provide guidance and support. And he's giving a big shout out to all those people who are awakening and are learning and opening up and being willing to try new things. And it may take some time, but it's worth it for sure. He's saying for sure it is. It's really important. And he's stepping back now and he's just saying bye. So super cool. Yeah. Yeah, when I first chatted with him, he didn't go into all of that. He just said hi and that he was interested in hanging out in the area and just wanting to say hi to me. And kind of going back to, I feel like in Iceland when I was traveling in that really high vibrational bubble of just beautiful energy, I feel like there were layers between me and the veil that were just non-existent. They weren't there. And I think that often happens in really high vibrational spaces, and it's just super exciting for me to experience that and be more comfortable with that as I'm on my own journey, and I'm opening up even more every day and sensing more things, seeing things, hearing different voices. The way I say it, it sounds crazy, but really it's not, and it's just a beautiful path that I'm on and I'm really excited about. So anyway, that's kind of where I want to leave it. I'm super excited to share all of those stories with you guys. If you have your own travel stories, that would be awesome to hear them. And yeah, I'm getting back into my regular posting schedule. So I have a video that I'm going to be posting up from last week, and I'm also going to be doing more channeling. So definitely go and check out my Facebook business page to see which events are coming up. And also, if you have any recommendations for new beings to channel or beings that you're just really interested in hearing more from, put them in the comments below. Let me know. I have a list, a running list of recommendations, and each month I sit down and I plan out my next month's events for every Thursday in my Pacific time zone. Every Thursday at 6:30 I try and do a channeling and post it that day. Sometimes it gets rescheduled, but most of the time it's on Thursdays. And basically I'm open to new things, but I sit down and I offer it up to any spirit being that wishes to speak to you guys or has a message for the specific Thursday that I'm scheduling at that time. And then if there are messages that need to happen sooner or later, I do additional videos, or I do extra live channelings in my Facebook group, Channeling with Love. So I'm kind of channeling all the time. And I also do readings and starseed readings and empath consultations, and I may do a video breaking down more of my services, so if you're interested in that, look out for that. And yeah, I guess I'll leave you guys to it. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world. Love and light to you all, and bye for now. See ya.